Good morning. So happy to see all of your faces here today. My name is Laura Keith King, and I use the pronouns she and her. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and any other noisy devices that you might have. Welcome to everyone. We're thrilled to have you here, whether you've been here once, never before, 1,000 times, and any number in between. I have a few opening words from Israel Zangwill, and after that, we will watch our 8 principles. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come and you shall know peace and joy. And now we have a responsive reading and chalice lighting. And Mary Beth is going to come up and light the chalice. The words that you say will be up on the screen. We light this chalice, not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice, not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across cultures, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and minds. Now, if you are willing and able, please stand, and followed by our hymns, you can remain standing, and we will recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now you need to scrounge around and find one of those teal hymnals, and the song is number 1022, Open the Window. There are enough of these hymnals to go around. I see one there next to the Kleenex. Maybe hand that over.
Bye.
Okay, now it's when we hit you up for money, because we can't do without it. We have to pay the bills. This is the time of our offering. Our church is completely supported by ourselves, what we do and what we give, and we appreciate all that you can do. And now we have a time for all ages, even though we don't have the kids' CRE classes today. We have a little poem, and we're going to show you some children's books that relate to the poem. This is Changing, a poem by Mary Ann Hoberman. This is not a new poem. This was in a book of poetry for my children that I bought 40 years ago, and I don't think it was new then. I know what I feel like. I'd like to be you and feel what you feel like and do what you do. I'd like to change places for maybe a week and look like you look like and speak as you speak and think what you're thinking and go where you go and feel what you're feeling and know what you know. I wish we could do it. What fun it would be if I could try you out and you could try me. And now, Bradley has kindly brought us some very interesting books that help us to feel like what it is to be someone else.
Hi, I'm Bradley. My pronouns are she and her, and I do have a sampling of books here for you today. These are books that live either here in our library or on our book cart out in the lobby. We're going to start talking about seeing from different perspectives with They All Saw a Cat, which is the most literal interpretation of this concept. So you see in this book, I'm going to skip through a couple here. You see how the child sees the cat, and the dog sees the cat. We're just going to do a couple more of these. You see how the fish sees the cat. And one more. The scariest one for all of the kids I've read this to is when the mouse saw the cat. So that's the most literal one right there. Our next book is Milo Imagines the World, which is just one of my absolute favorite books. And in it, Milo, this young character, he's on a journey, and as he's riding the subway, he sees other people around him, and he tries to imagine what their lives are like, and you see that in his drawings. And then something happens that changes everything for him. He realizes that something he was thinking was not true, and someone he saw was more like him than he knew. And so then he reimagines all the people that he had already imagined and sees a different world that's possible. And it's just a really lovely book. when Aiden became a brother. It's really great. You get to see the world from Aiden's perspective, and hopefully Aiden's perspective can help us all grow in our own perspectives and realize how our actions can affect others. Tango Base 3, another one with different perspectives. I'm sure you're familiar. We're getting into some of the books that are meant more for, the middle grades kids. These are third graders, fourth graders, kids who are 9 and 10 years old, and they've learned a little bit more. When Stars Are Scattered is based on a true story about 2 young brothers in a refugee camp. But it's really great because it's a graphic novel, and all kids want to read these days. Graphic novels. And then we have 2 more here that I brought just as samples. The Underneath, where you have characters who get to know each other, the dog and the cats, when normally you wouldn't expect dogs and cats to become friends, but they're facing a very cruel world, and you can get to know their perspectives, but also you might have to think about what those other characters in the story are going through or have gone through. And the last one is New Kid, talking about a young man who feels a little different in middle school and has, you get to see his perspective. Thank you, Bradley.
And now we have the pleasure of introducing Rosalind Fisher. Rosalind Fisher. Rosalind Fisher is a retired sociology professor who taught about inequality, social problems with women's studies, sex roles, race, and ethnicity. She has a BS in psychology, an MA in community development, and an MS in sociology. Rosalind loves God, jazz, science fiction, the arts, democracy, and her family. She writes about social justice issues, women's health, gender issues, and self-care. Rosalind is pet mom to a spoiled Yorkie, and she will be speaking on banned books, free speech, and parental responsibility. Thank you, Rosalind.
It's so nice to see some familiar faces, people that I've known for a while who I know we have some we're like-minded people. Because a couple of things I want to say about this whole issue of banned books are things that might not be a popular perspective about it. It's a privilege, first of all, to stand before you today to discuss this topic, which I feel is important. As a member of a Universalist Unitarian congregation, you're not just united by your commitment to free speech, for the free search for truth and meaning, but you also play a crucial role in preserving intellectual freedom. And just seeing you share books, made me really happy. Book banning isn't just a battle over words and pages. It's a fight for the very soul of our culture and the values that we hold dear. And you're at the forefront of this battle. We really all are, whether we decide to participate or not. So today I want to explore why some seek to ban books and why we should stand firmly against such actions that challenge our intellectual freedom. I'm going to start by sharing an incident with you that happened on the campus. I was a professor of sociology at UWF, and while teaching at UWF, I witnessed this encounter that was kind of distressing for me. I just left a great class where we had discussed gender roles, high heels, and cheerleaders. And I was enjoying the beautiful day, still kind of smiling and chuckling to myself about some of the comments the students had made, when I noticed a young woman confidently striding across the campus. She had on this bright yellow sundress, and she was kind of flicking her hair. And I thought, oh, she looks so cute, and she looks so self-assured. And that made me feel good. But as I began to walk, we have this free speech space on the campus. Some of you know about this. And there was a man from Pensacola Christian who was shouting about God's grace. Okay, that's good. Then he changed his topic when he saw her to sin and pointed his Bible at the young woman and began to talk about Jezebel, and he used the word harlot. His actions turned her happy stride into a timid scamper to the parking lot, and it pained me to see that joy leave her face, to see that confidence leave her body. But this incident took place where I had consistently supported divergent views and open dialogue, and it made me think deeply about the impact of speech and how other people's values can affect and limit free expression. So what does that have to do with banned books? In countries where dictators take over, eliminating free speech and prohibiting books go hand in hand. I wanted to ban that Bible-pointing guy right then. But he stood in the free speech area on campus, which I had consistently supported. Your voices, your diverse views are what make your congregation strong and vibrant. It's essential to understand the motivations behind book banning. In Florida, recently, over 400 books have been banned for varying reasons, such as content related to violence or abuse, health and well-being. Can you imagine? Sexual content, racial and LGBTQ plus themes, grief and death, and transgender characters. These bans are often driven by the desire to protect children from what some parents and community members consider inappropriate or harmful content. While the intention to protect children is understandable, banning books is not the answer. As a child who read voraciously, it was helpful that I had parents with whom I could ask questions about things that disturbed me or I didn't understand. They answered me or said to look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica. So 60 years ago, my parents had me doing academic research. Yeah, they do deserve some applause. Ignorance has never been bliss for Black people. It was dangerous and unproductive. And it's even more dangerous now for people of color, really for all our children, to not know that our world is filled with good people and bad, bullies and heroes, intelligent choices and life-threatening ones. So there are several reasons why we should oppose book bans. Firstly, looks like I don't have them in order. The first one should have been our First Amendment rights. Ensure the freedom to read and access information. Any form of censorship, images infringes upon these rights. Additionally, many banned books offer critical insights into complex societal issues, and they encourage critical thinking. Furthermore, diverse books allow children to see themselves and others in stories they read. Banning such books denies students the opportunity to understand and empathize with different perspectives and experiences, which is a significant loss in their development. I know that you have noticed that young people spend less time with each other and more time communicating via technology. As a result, some of them don't have very good social skills. And their ability to figure out how to resolve issues, I found as a teacher to be lacking. So this opportunity to look into other people's lives is important. When I was a kid, I had the opportunity to read all kinds of books, all kinds of material. And I read The Diary of Anne Frank. And I did feel the grief that is listed above as one of the things that parents want to protect their kids from. I felt like I was able to understand the impact of the Nazi regime on a young girl who had not been allowed to experience an ordinary sunlight. Maya Angelou's brilliant sharing of how the trauma of violence can still a person's voice, filled with poetry, helped me to understand how your voice could be stolen and the impact of something like rape on a child. And of course, our parents don't want their children to hear about that or to know that even exists, and that's dangerous. It used to be when I was a kid that when you met a relative who you didn't know or someone who hadn't visited before, your parents would say, "Oh, give so-and-so a hug." And you felt awkward. You didn't know this person and you were being told to give them physical affection, which meant you didn't have a choice. Your body didn't really belong to you. Other people could direct what you did with it. That isn't a healthy thing. And now more and more parents recognize that's not, what you should do with your kids. That instead you should say, "Would you like to?" Or, "This is so-and-so, and, why don't we give them a handshake?" Or, some other choices. Okay, I don't want to get off the topic, but what I'm saying is kids who are being protected are not really being protected when they're not given the opportunity to read some of these books. So another aspect of this is that issue of political agendas. The fact that some of the reasons why certain books are being banned has a lot more to do with stealing voices and silencing voices than it does to do with protecting children. And that has to be acknowledged. These are efforts to control narratives around history, race, identity, and they're often influenced by political motives that really have nothing to do with the books themselves. This, I should have had reasons over here, and somehow I fell asleep and didn't get the reasons up there. But there are things that, you know, oh, they're on the next, okay, they're on the previous, okay, good. And so some of the things that we have to acknowledge about books in Florida that have been banned is that this is the list of reasons. Content related to violence and abuse. Approximately 48% of banned books address themes of violence or physical abuse, including sexual assault. Health and well-being topics, around 42% deal with mental health, bullying, suicide, substance abuse, sexual well-being, and puberty. And sexual content, 33% of banned books detail sexual experiences. 4, racial and LGBTQ, I have that wrong, plus themes. 30% of banned books include characters of color or themes of race and racism. Another 30% include LGBTQ, I'm still saying it wrong, plus representations. And then grief and death, 29% cover themes of grief and death, and transgender characters, 6% feature transgender characters. Now, as a Christian and someone who is somewhat familiar with the Bible, I am left wondering how Louisiana and the other states, I think there's one other for sure, and others who are discussing this, that are requiring the Bible to be taught in public schools, are reconciling their book banning criteria with the fact that the Bible contains all of these issues: drunkenness, bullies, violence, grief, death, marital infidelity, prostitution, and incest. This contradiction highlights the complexity and subjectivity of book banning and the need for a more nuanced approach to protecting children from politically or potentially harmful content. When I was a kid, when we went to the library, there was a section for children. There was a section for young adults. Well, we call it young adults now. I think then we called it teenagers. And then adults. And same thing in school. If you were lucky enough to be in a school that had a library, it was classified in those ways. I don't understand why that isn't an option. Why do we need to ban books? Has to be a deeper motive. Of course, I grew up in a family of people that are conspiracy believers. So, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think there's something more going on here, and we better step up and address it. So there are several reasons why we should oppose book bans. That freedom of expression and access to information is one of the strongest for me. Our First Amendment rights ensure the freedom to read and access information. Censorship in any form infringes upon those rights. And not only are public schools here experiencing this ban, but our public library is feeling pressure from people, organizations, groups, to also ban some of these books, which I think is just incredible. So when you go to the library, your choices are going to be eliminated because your choices don't meet the values of someone else. Educational value. Many banned books offer critical insights into complex issues. Classics like Morrison's The Bluest Eye, Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, I couldn't believe To Kill a Mockingbird is on that list, but it is. Not only that, but two of Shakespeare's plays, Macbeth and Hamlet, are banned. Oh, wait a minute, three. Romeo and Juliet is also banned. Representation matters. Diverse books allow children to see themselves and others in the stories they read. I say this again because so many of these books that are banned are books by marginalized groups. People of color, people who are considered to be outsiders because of their sexuality, people with disabilities, a number of people that are being silenced. And that is devastating, a devastating thing to happen, to have authors' works, people that are telling stories about a world that the rest of us may not be experiencing, are being shut down. Then the chilling effect that this has for libraries, for educators, fearing a backlash. They have to avoid selecting valuable but potentially controversial books. This is one of the reasons why I decided to retire when I decided to retire from UWF, because no one had said to me, this is what's going to happen. But I've always been pretty good at seeing ahead and recognizing, the potential. And I thought, if someone comes in here and starts telling me what to teach, oh Lord, all hell's gonna break out. And you don't want that to happen, Rosalind, so you need to step off. Then that encouraging critical thinking, that I was really lucky that my parents said, sometimes they answered the questions because they were questions they thought they needed to respond to. Other times they said, go look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica. And that helped me to research, but also to do critical thinking, to look it up, then apply what I had seen to real life. And that is an incredible skill, and I'm telling you, it's one that our young people are losing. We need to work on this. So I have a call to action for you. I want to ask you to support libraries and educators. Advocate for librarians and teachers' rights to provide a whole range of books. Now, I'm not talking about little children, but you would be surprised. Some of the books that have been banned are for little kids. And they're missing a learning opportunity. Sharing those books allows kids to find out some things, to have some questions, to assess what they believe and value in comparison to what's being read. It's a teachable moment missed. So support the policies that protect educators who oppose censorship. Back in the day, when people were punished for doing something that was contradictory, when Rosa Parks decided to stand up, to sit down, when she was expected to stand up, and everybody started walking, one of the things that really touched me so deeply was a picture I saw of shoes. Well, actually, I think the picture was in my mind. The story was what I read. It was, there were these religious organizations across the country that wrote to Martin Luther King or called him and said, what can we do to help? And he said, people's shoes are, they're getting holes in them, that they can't wear them anymore, you could send us shoes. And I visualized the stacks and stacks and stacks of shoes. And it said, all these shoes came from everywhere, from mosques, from temples, from Methodist churches, from everywhere. All kinds of people, mostly people of faith and love and generosity. And it didn't matter what race they were or what religion they were. They gave these shoes, and those shoes were an example of love and support. You know, we could, if we had a champion teacher, we could put together funds to support that person, you know. Engage in open dialogue. You're doing that. You invited me here, you share books, you know, you talk about important issues. Promote diverse reading. I keep saying I'm going to figure out how these people have created these little libraries in their neighborhoods, little book boxes, you know. It would be nice if my church and your church, I haven't asked my pastor this, but if we got together and decided we would have a couple of those little libraries somewhere near our churches, or, you know, just someplace. We could put the money together. We could agree on different days who would go and check the books to see if we needed something new. There are ways to promote diverse reading, and we can do that. And then advocating for policy changes. Now, we know this is the hardest one, but writing those letters, especially when people are running for office, it does have an impact. I used to have my students just send letters, all kinds of letters, and it was interesting to me, some of the responses they got and how some things did change. So, in conclusion, book banning is a way to eradicate our fundamental values of freedom, diversity, and education. By opposing censorship and advocating for the free exchange of ideas, we honor our commitment to the worth and dignity of every person. So let us stand together to defend our right to read freely and ensure that our children can access a broad and diverse range of human knowledge and experience. Are you with me? Yeah. And thank you for being willing to listen.
We are now going to sing from the Teal hymnal again. Number 1074, thank you for standing if you're willing and able. And the song is called Turn the World Around. And we will close with a responsive reading written by Reverend Clyde Grubbs. Source of life, we have been given time to measure our days. What are we to make of these times in which we live and love and have our being? The road of history has been long, full of both hope and disappointment. There have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness and destruction. We know that we cannot continue to live the old way. We must wake a change, seek a new way, a way leading toward peace, justice, and a healthy planet. Creative Spirit, you have given a vision for the good, and we yearn for a new way. But where can we find the courage to begin the work for this new beginning? We wonder what is required of us. We think of the prophets, women and men who gave voice to unpopular opinion, who made personal sacrifices, sometimes their lives, for the sake of justice. May we be inspired and renewed by the courage of these witnesses. Let them empower us as we work for this vision. So may it be. Amen. Into our world, we trust our spirits. May the strength we have gained in this communal hour sustain us as we resume the work that is at hand. Please join us for refreshments and fellowship.